Hey y'all, I have a lot of thrifted items here that don't need to be painted, and so I'm going to show you what I thrifted, and if you would like them, they're listed on my website. This is a pink flamingo statue. I'm not sure, it has no name on it. It caught my eye. I'm not a pink flamingo person, but I know some of you live over there by the ocean, and he would look perfect in your decor. I have two glasses with the gold leaf on them. We cleaned out our cottage, and these were at our cottage, and they're just not really my style. I'm not a gold person, nor do I drink out of this type of a glass. So they would make a pretty vase though, I think, and they're very, very pretty. The gold is very metallic-y. So it does definitely have a shine to them. So these are listed out there. I have a bottle. You know I love bottles. Look at that one. It's something ground. It's from Watkins. And Watkins used to have that spice place. It was 8 cents. So it has embossed etching on the bottom here. Without the cover, it'd make a really pretty vase. And then just a jar. I'm a sucker for clear glass, and this little jar, it would make a perfect vase, and it was 39 cents. I just really, really liked it. Little things catch my eye. These little silver, they're very, very heavy, so I'm not sure what kind of silver they are, but they were 29 cents a piece. And they're in really good shape. These would be perfect to put on your dresser, to put your ring in at night, or even by your kitchen sink, or any other little trinkets that you have. So they're very tiny, and there's 4 of them. They will be sold individually. I will sell them, so if you just want one, you can get one. And they have an embossed detail around the outside. Like this one is a little bit more tarnished, but still very pretty. These both say salt. They're both a bit different. I'll put them both so they say salt on the bottom. This one is more yellowy vintage. This one's more whitey vintage. They're old salt jars, pretty wavy glass. I don't know. I liked them. They were 98 cents. I got a lot of glassware this time with birds on them. I'm a sucker for birds, especially in the springtime. I really like to see the birds, and I like to share them with others. This was 98 cents. It is a vase, and it says "Atta girl," but it's made in Japan. So it is a Japan imported item with that cute little bird on it. Here's another glassware. This is an apothecary jar, and it has no chips or dings. It has a pretty bird on it with those pretty coral flowers. This one does not have a stamping on the bottom. But again, I would guess Japan. Even if it isn't Japan, it's just really, really pretty. It's white glass. This plate has a gold edge, and it has a pretty pinkish purple bird here with some lilacs. This one also says it's from Japan. There must have been somebody who lost their grandmother or their mother, and she had a collection with all of this glassware with birds on it, but it's mine now, or yours. Here is another plate. It says 22 karat gold trim, made exclusively for Avon products. So this is an Avon product, and it's got a bird up there with some fruit. It is inset, and I have to look this one up because I think this one could be a collector. Here's just a plain old stoneware bowl. This is my style. I already have one though. I have one like this that I put my butter in. I absolutely love it because it's long enough for the butter. This one the butter might just fit in there, but mine is long enough for the butter, and I have it in there all the time. This is made in the USA, and it's Hall. It's Hall stoneware, and it's number 527. It has a little bit of etching on the top here, and it's good. It's stoneware. It's more my style. Pampered Chef. Pampered Chef tray. If this doesn't sell as is, I will probably paint it. But I'm going to give you an opportunity to purchase it as is. I'm not sure what Pampered Chef used this for, but I was thinking charcuterie. I can't ever say that word. Those boards are really popular right now. This would make a really good charcuterie tray. And so it's from Pampered Chef. You know it's good quality. It's a nice, heavy board. If it does not sell, it probably will get painted. So if you'd like it, check out my website at thepaintedphotographer.com. I have 3 bowls, blue, yellow, and a red one, kind of tangerine-y red. They were $1.89 a piece. I just really liked them. I like this size bowl. It's cute for kids. They do feel like a stoneware cup, or maybe even like fiestaware kind of feel to them. They work really well in this Pampered Chef tray. So maybe they came with that tray. I'm not sure. More birds. I found some coasters with birds on them. They are drink coasters. They were used. I did have to scrub them up a little bit, so they do have some staining on them, but not much. Like these must have been used more often. They got some coffee staining on them, but still really, really cute. They do have that cork on the back side. A set of coasters with birds on them. They wouldn't even need to be used as coasters. They could be used as something else because they're just darn cute. These are late. It's Easter on Sunday, and I'm just getting this video out. But these little Easter bunny and a chick, they were just different. I don't normally buy holiday decor, but of course that little bird got me. And then this little chick, she was just cute. So they are a little bit different Easter decor. They feel heavy. Like they're not ceramics. They're not china at all. They're kind of like a hard resin. And then I found these came in something else that I bought. These hand-painted eggs. They're just gonna be out there. They came in something else that I wanted. I think it was a bird house, or not a bird house, a bird cage. And they were inside the bird cage. I didn't really want them, but they were in there. This is a silver tray, and it's got lots of patina on it. I do like this tray. It's scooped in size. It has some good tarnish on it. I can see this sitting out on your patio table with a couple little potted plants in it. And I have one right here. So sitting with a potted plant in it, and then just using it for decor. It's really cute. It's not going to rot for sure. Here's another metal bowl. It's a very, very shallow bowl tray. It has embossed edges on it. It's very tarnished. This one was 99 cents. Some of these I don't have price tags on them. I took them off already. But this one, it's got some really good tarnish on it. I like it. I have a bird. I have a bird fetish. Look at this bird. So he's got some daffodils on him. He was very, very bright. He had very bright color. This was extremely bright. This down here on the bottom was like an orange. So what I did is I painted it. I painted it white and dry brushed white over the top to kind of soften that all up. And then I clear waxed it and dark waxed it to bring out some of those details there and some of the details in this flower. So now he's darn cute. But guess what he does? And he's a sensor. He came with the batteries. I didn't even have to put batteries in him. He still works. A little brass vase. It has no it does have some embossing on it. Has a little leaf embossing on it right there. A little etching, I should say. It was $1.99 for this one. And then I also have a brass bell that has a homemade hanger in there. I'm not sure if it was made like that or if somebody did create that little bell in there with a nut. Oh no, I bet it's original because it's not a nut. I bet it's original. This was $1.59, but this is really cute. It's got some nice brass patina on it, and both of those pieces I really like. A couple bunnies. They're really, really tiny, but they were cute. This one's holding a flower. This one's probably more for Easter, but this one you could put up for summer decor. He's got a little bow on his tail there. And then this one, he's just wearing a little yellow jacket holding an egg. She's just really sweet. Here is a cute little bowl with some flowers. This is also England. So it's Staffordshire, England. Fine bone china. It's beautiful. If you love flowers, you're gonna like this. And it's a cute little bowl. Another flower. This is a salt shaker or a, I'm not sure what kind of shaker, powdered sugar shaker maybe. It does have the plug in the bottom. And it did have salt in it. I think this is the one that had salt in it, so I washed it all out. It's all gone now. But this has all of the flowers and names on the side of it. It's really cute. This is a salt shaker also with a very, very pretty pink flower on both sides. It does have a wooden cork in it. Not wooden. It does have a cork type material in it. And it's got that gold rim around the top. Really, really sweet. This little pitcher, you know what? Does it match that? Sure does. So this is a set. I didn't know that, but this is a set. Look at that. So I will sell this as a set. I didn't know they were a set. But it's got a little pitcher. I can imagine just flowers being stuck in there and seeing that on your counter. Must be cream and sugar. And then my friend picked up, she's seen these at a thrift store. She picked up a couple for herself and I said, hey, I like them. Went back and got me the rest of them. I gave a couple to my daughter. I kept a couple for myself and I have 2 to sell on here. I'm not sure, they must have had spices in them. And they come with a plastic cap, which is kind of weird, but it's a plastic cap. But this is a white glass jar, and to put just a couple little sprigs of flowers in there is so perfect. That's how she had it staged up, with a couple little fake flowers in it, and it was beautiful. So these will be available on my website, sold separately. One more item. This has got 2 holes in it, and that's got a big hole there. I'm not really sure. But it's the cutest chicken ever. I'm not normally a chicken fan, but it's the cutest chicken ever. Rooster? No, I think it's a chicken. It's not a rooster. It's definitely a chicken. It has no nicks. It does have one little flaw right here, but it almost looks like it came from the factory like that. Like, I don't think anybody chipped that. I think it came that way. I have another thrift haul for you today. These candlesticks I picked up at the thrift store. They were really pretty and a good color. They just needed an update. So I went ahead and painted them in the DIY's Bohemian Blue and gave them a solid color. I thought the blue and the green would look very well together in case it distressed back to the green. The DIY paint goes on very well. It's very thick and a beautiful paint and covers beautifully. The Bohemian Blue was a good color. I only had to do one coat over this green. Getting inside all those textures, just pounce it in there. I wanted to have some type of a texture to it. Next, I took tarnished pearl and I added some water to it. I want a very watered down paint. I mixed that all up, sprayed my candlestick with some water just from a mister bottle, and then went ahead and dripped on this tarnished pearl white paint. I wanted to give these a look like they were sitting outside and got all just distressed from like salt water or something. And I sprayed it with the mister bottle and just watched that tarnished pearl run down the side of the candlestick. It was beautiful to watch this. They are turning out just as I imagined. Next, I took the big top. I use it out of a separate container so I do not contaminate my big top. And I went ahead and put big top over the entire piece. After it was dry, I took the DIY white wax and put it on the entire piece just to give it a little bit more of that soft look that I was going for, and wiped that all back, let it dry, and buffed it off. They are beautiful. Next, I had a couple old little frames that I found at a thrift store. They were outdated, needed a refresher. I gave them a coat of the DIY white swan, covering the entire thing. When you have old thrifted frames, make sure you wash the glass on both sides. They get really, really dirty, and you wouldn't believe that it makes a huge difference to have that glass washed on both sides. They're really kind of grimy. So get in there and wash them up. I gave them a second coat because the white paint does have a little bit tougher time covering, and I wanted to make sure that it was covered well. This one I added some gypsy green right onto the wet paint, the wet white paint, and made a really pretty soft green. Green is for spring, and I wanted these to have a nice spring look to them. Next, when they were dry, I went in with a wet baby wipe and distressed those edges, making them look like they were worn, especially on the inside and the corners where they would just normally get touched and the paint would wear off. I had a couple of these bunny papers that I had gotten from Jane Belanti Art. I am signed up for her email, and she sends out free printables, and these really caught my eye. I normally don't print them out because they are more for mixed media, and I just love to see the designs that Jane does. But these I thought were really cute and would go really well in those small little frames that I had, like that bunny. I wanted to distress the edges of them and make them look like they were more aged than that brand new paper. So I went ahead with my brown ink pad and just distressed the edges. Now drop the glass in there, the frame in there, and the cardboard, and you have a cute little Easter print. I have 3 pails. I thrifted them at the thrift store. I'm going in with that gypsy green. My brush has still got a little bit of that white swan in it, which was fine. I did want some of that lighter green anyway. So I went ahead and just added white to it to spring that up a little bit instead of just the dark gypsy green. It coverages really well. You can paint with DIY paint on metal, and it will stick to metal. It'll stick to any surface. Some of these were a little shinier for that farm fresh, so the coverage on first coat wasn't very good, but the second coat, it was good, and no reason for a third. I had this large flower bin. It's all garden stuff around here now. We're getting ready for spring. So I went ahead and gave this an update as well. a couple of frames that I had. I cleaned them up and also painted them. French millinery is becoming a very popular color, and this light purple, and it's kind of like a grayish purple. So I painted this candlestick in that French millinery. I'm actually kind of liking it, and I'm not even a purple girl, but yeah, that French millinery is kind of stealing my heart lately, and especially after I did this candlestick, it really turned out well. So I painted the frame in French millinery also and gave that a nice coat. This is going right over wood, dark wood, and it covers, the coverage of French millinery is really good. After they were dried and distressed, I gave them a coat of clear wax and waxed all of that over. This one, I just went straight in with white wax. No clear wax at all. Went straight in with white wax. I wanted a really soft look on this one. It kind of distressed down to the first layer, which is totally fine. If you don't let it dry long enough, the paint dry long enough, you will have some distressing when you wax, but I was okay with that. I liked that age look to it. But now it has a nice, soft French millinery look. When I used the brown ink, I didn't show you how I mixed it. So here we have tomato ink, and then we have, this is the green ink. I forget the name of the green ink right now. Newgrass. And I mix those together. So green and red will give you a brown. And I mixed them two together and added just a touch of black. I had to add a little bit more of the newgrass to it to get it a little bit browner. And then I added a little bit of the black to it just to deepen that brown. And I went ahead and I mixed them up onto my thin mount. So this is a really good way to mix that ink, is to just put it right on your thin mount. If you don't have a thin mount, you can find them at thepaintedphotographer.com. They are a really, really great tool. Now, I took my ink pad. It was needing more brown ink that I had mixed before. And I went ahead and was putting it on the ink pad and thought, oh, there's an easier way. Let's just suck it up on the thin mount. So I flipped the pad over and then just pulled that ink onto the ink pad. Worked out slick. Got it all soaked into that ink pad. Now it's ready to go. That's how you mix ink without putting it in a bottle. I have this new liqueur stamp. I haven't used it before, so I need to season it. You're going to take a 220 grit sandpaper and just rub the top of the stamp. That gets that factory film off of it, and you're going to have a much sharper image than if you wouldn't have done that. I go and I flip it 90 degrees, and I do the same thing. And if you do the entire stamp right when you take it out of the package, you no longer have to do that. You only have to do that one time. Now I have another Jane Belanti image that I printed off. This was a free image she gave us, and I cut one out so that I could use it as a mask. So on a piece of paper, I actually took the print and another piece of plain paper and cut one completely out, and it gave me the mask for the plain mask for the other one. So now I'm going to take this brown ink that I had, and I'm going to ink up that. Oh, this one is the black ink. I'm sorry. It's not the brown that we mixed. It is the black. So I went ahead and got that IOD black ink pad, and stamped up this entire stamp. There's a lot of details on this stamp, so you have to make sure that you get really, really good coverage and stamping the whole thing. Then I took that masked bunny, put the stamp on top, and spread that around, making sure that I have good coverage of that ink because there is so much detail in this stamp. Pulled it off, and there we have the bunny on newsprint. Isn't he sweet? I took him and framed him in the French millinery frame, and he makes perfect art in really, really fast amount of time. I didn't take a picture of him, but you've seen him there. Next, I wanted to make just some shadow underneath him so that he didn't look like he was sitting in midair. So I went ahead and took a watercolor pencil and took a brown one and then water after. And what the watercolor pencil does is it'll allow you to just pencil it on, but the wet brush will smooth it out to be like watercolor and giving him a nice shadow underneath. I went ahead and just put a shadow on the one side of him. You do not want a shadow on both sides of that bunny. That would not look natural. So as long as you just have the shadow on the one side, that it makes him look more natural. Here is that garden tin that we painted in Farm Fresh. I had some molds, some transfers. All of these are some of my favorites, and they got such a whimsical look to them. This is the Whispering Willow, the ferns, the toadstool molds. Excuse me. There's so many good transfers in this pack. These toadstools are perfect. That's exactly what I want to go with my toadstool mold. And some of these other mushrooms on here look really good. And this fern, I like to have them kind of hanging from the top versus coming up from the bottom. So I kind of hang them down like it's drapery, framing them. For a transfer, I did not seal this paint. I just let it dry overnight. And I'd lose the bunny ears if I put him there. So I actually cut the bottom half of that bunny off just so he's peeking over that. He's going to be draped in those ferns, which is really, really cute. I just really liked this. But if you let your DIY paint dry for 24 hours, you can put a transfer on without sealing it. Most people tell you to seal them. I normally do, but in this case, I still wanted to do something else to this dry paint. So I did not want a sealer on there. I took a couple more from the ferns transfer and just added some to the sides. And now on the back side, in case someone is using this in their home and you can see both sides of it, I added a couple mushrooms to the back side of it in the same way, cutting off that bottom so it looks like it's sitting on the base versus just floating in the midair. One of these other ferns I had left, so I stuck it hanging from the top to kind of give it that drapery look that we had on the other side. The mushrooms, I put a couple on each side. I had a plan for the middle of that with the toadstool mold and some air dry clay. You go ahead and you just put that air dry clay into your mold. There's a microfiber rim that you can smooth it off and we'll get a perfect mold every time. Flip it over, roll it out, and you have a great looking mold. Now I had a couple of mushrooms that I made up from that mold and I glued them on. So we moved on to the buckets, and the buckets, I wanted to put some of these Minot transfers on them. It's a really cool transfer set. I really do like it. And I thought, okay, this is like a fish bucket. Like if you would put this in your cabin or something, it'd be a nice bucket. I had to cut them apart and put them on separately. It was hard to put them on all together. Oh, I guess I skipped back to these mushrooms. They must be dry. Sorry for the bouncing all around. You never know how this all gets put into place. I did faded burlap, that's what it is. And then I took some marquee and painted them. This bucket, I had a butterfly transfer on it, and I took my DIY making powders, dipped my brush in water. This paint is not sealed. This is dry DIY paint. And it's a clay-based paint, so it's going to absorb that making powder. And I went ahead and just misted and added that color like it just dripped off of the can. And this it really looks like it was just aged in there. I did the same thing with this tin. I took my brush, put it in water, added the making powder. It goes on really heavy. Don't get scared about that. It'll just soak right in, and wherever your transfer is, it will not stick. The transfer is got a coating on it, so it won't stick. If it does stick a little bit, you can take a baby wipe and wipe that right off. So I used blue and green on here. I believe it was Pool Party, and the green was Plant Lady. Those colors, they're amazing. The vividness of those making powders is fabulous. I went ahead and just coated the whole thing. I thought, I like these colors. I'm going to coat the whole thing and we're going to see what happens. I flipped it up and I misted it, and the Farm Fresh came through, but we had a little bit of vivid color. So I just gave it a big mist. My mister bottle is having a little bit of issue here. I did have to go to the store and buy a new one. But you can see all that color just kind of dripped right off. And I'm now coating it with Big Top. And when you use the making powders, you will have a little bit of transfer when you use the Big Top, because it's going to take some of those colors, pigment colors. Here are the buckets finished with the making powders on them. And here is my tin finished up with the making powder on it. They have a really cool look. I found this knife crock. I didn't really care for the knife part of it, so I went ahead and took some air dry clay and my brayer. There's a little bit of cornstarch on my thin mount, and this is the Antiquities stamp. I had this B stamp. I put it on top, brayered the image into the clay, set the lid on top, and cut around it. Now I'm going to cover up those knife slots on the top of the crock, and it'll have a totally different look. It won't have that knife look anymore. We went ahead and removed that stamp, forming the edges to the side of the lid. Took some wood glue, glued it on, and let it dry. I really like this look. It gives it a homemade look. Then I thought, oh, let's add a little bee on top of that beehive. So there's this tiny little bee. We stuck him on there. It did crack. It was dried overnight, and it did crack a little bit. So that's no problem. With DIY paint, we just fill it in like it was made to be like that. And it gives it a more aged look. I painted the whole thing in black velvet, and then I took that watered down tarnished pearl and put it on top to give it some aged soft look. Mr. Bottle, squirted it up and let it dry. The bee from the transfer set, he went onto the side of the white crock. He really added to the detail of this crock. I just love the simpleness of it. And then I thought, oh, let's add a crock stamp. I should have done that before I put the bee on it, but I wasn't thinking of it. So I had to cut the transfer stamp in pieces so that I could put it on there. Instead of it being on top of him, I wanted it to look like it was behind him. So I went ahead and added that one as well to the top of him. This crock is so pretty. I added the Big Top to the dried paint, and he is completely finished. Isn't he sweet on that white? It's so pretty. This is the transfer pots. I had another one of these crocks that it just needed to have a little bit something added to it. So the transfer pots have blue images in them. So I added a blue image to this kind of a tannish crock. It's beautiful. that's it. That one is done. That was a really fast project, and it just added so much more to it. I found this leather, I don't know what it is, tote at the thrift store, and these transfers from the Whispering Willow were going to go so well on there. I took that bird and I took some of these white flowers. You don't need to prep that leather at all. That transfer will stick to that leather. So I took these leaves and draped them kind of like I did the fern stamp. I draped them from the top. So I had to cut the top off to make it look like they were. So if you cut them off on the top, I know you're going to feel like you're wasting a transfer if you cut them, but it does make them look like they were really made to fit there versus just hanging from the stem. So these I'm cutting apart because I want them individually hanging from the leaves. So I'm going to make it look like these leaves had some flowers that were growing from them as well. So I cut those apart, transferred those onto this little leather tote. This leather tote, it sat in the thrift store for a long time, and I passed it up every single time I went there, and nobody was buying it. And finally, I'm like, you know what? Someone has to rescue this thing and do something with it. I am so glad it was me that decided to go ahead and use this because it turned out so cute with these transfers on it. And I really do like that green color. That green color is beautiful. I'm going to put the bird on here. His tail is going to wind around to the side of this leather tote. And he's standing right there. I put a couple leaves on the right side. He's standing right there in those leaves and that leather tote. It is gorgeous. I love it. That's all I have for you today. And thank you for watching my video. Thank you for following along in my thrift shopping. I do love to thrift, and I like to get deals, and I like to give you guys deals too. So I hope that you hop on over to my website at thepaintedphotographer.com and look at my thrift store items. I'll have a link below. I also will have a link for any of my DIY paints, IOD products, or JRV products in the link below also. And I also carry Saltwash. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy painting.